Welcome to the first episode of Series 82, everyone. This month we have Lawlor and Panny Lines with us to go over their remarkable post-apocalyptic mech RPG called Salvage Union. This episode we learn all about the game and even begin making our characters. But before we get to that, we do have some calls to action coming up after the show. Here's what to expect. You can join us here after the show where we will have some information about the near future of our show. We will have our normal Patreon information as well as our patron thank yous. With all of that out of the way, enjoy the show, everyone. Welcome to Character Creation Cast, a show where we discuss and create characters, the best part of role-playing games, with guests using their favorite systems. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan, and this episode, my co-host Amelia and I are excited to welcome Lawlor and Panny Lines to talk about their post-apocalyptic mech TTRPG called Salvage Union.
Both of you, welcome to Character Creation Cast. I am really excited to talk to you about this game. As our listeners know, I don't like mech games, and I can't wait to talk about this. So, can you...
It's not a trap, we swear.
It's not a trap. Dear listeners, it's a mech game that I like, which makes me very excited. So can you tell our audience who you are, along with your pronouns, what sorts of things you do, where people can find you online, all of the general introductory info?
Sure. So yeah, thanks for having us. I'm Panny. I go by they, them for the last 3.5 years now. I've been one of the co-founders of Leyline Press with Aled, which is a tabletop role-playing games company based in the UK. And indeed, Salvage Union is one of our biggest games, which we're here to talk about. You can find me on Blue Sky at Unpanny Valley, and you can also find us on Blue Sky and Instagram and various others at Leyline Press or at Salvage Union for those respective accounts. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Aled, the other half of Leyline Press, you can't really find me online that much. I kind of leave that side to Panny. I keep telling myself I'm going to do it, but I never do post anything. So
I just took a break from it because I was like, I used to be on there all the time, but I was like, for Lent this year, we're just gonna, and I'm like really enjoying not being online. I'm kind of loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm lucky that I have a Panny to do all of this for the company. Because everybody needs someone to do social media. Unless you're the person that likes doing it, in which case, yeah, great. But yeah, thanks for having us. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and get into this, and we'll start by discussing what this game is all about.
What's in a game?
Okay, so what is the core concept of Salvage Union?
So Salvage Union is a post-apocalyptic mech role-playing game. You play as a group of salvagers who live in a post-apocalyptic caused not just by one event, but by a kind of series of entropic events. So you've got global warming, nuclear devastation, wars, and in all that chaos, corporations have effectively taken control and formed a sort of corporate oligarchy, kind of a feudal corporate states. But you're the salvagers. You live out in the wastelands on the periphery of kind of corpo territory. You live in a giant mech and you roam around collecting scrap and using that scrap to support your community and kind of live in a different and more wholesome and communal way to the corpos. And that's kind of the broad gist of the setting in the pitch. Aled, is there anything I'm missing there or anything?
Yeah, no, I think that broadly covers it. I mean, yeah, you live on this Union crawler. The idea is that obviously you have all of these corpos and they control various territories, and they all live inside these giant arcologies, which are sort of self-sufficient internally, but they still need obviously resources. There's also a load of people who live just outside in the wastes as sort of like wasters. They're not really part of the Union or anything. They're just sort of hard scrabbling a life around. But you're sort of you're on this big crawler and you're going around. There's sort of a lot of themes that come from a lot of things you'll have seen like Mortal Engines or like Mad Max and things like that. There's so many touchstones really in post-apocalyptic fiction
right?
to grab hold of. But
it's like people feel drawn to it for some
gist.
reason. People are like into that. I don't know. It's like they could relate to it.
I think it's the thing, right? It's I think it's a weird thing of sort of like an agency fantasy, right? Like in this kind of like Wild West setting where you can go and do whatever you want, but obviously you're outside the control of like anything. So you have some level of self-determination was kind of like the idea, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's designed to be a setting with hope. Which I think is a key difference perhaps to some of the other post-apocalyptic media, which is more about survival. This is kind of building your own sort of society and supporting your community and finding another way to live. And you're kind of, there is hope within the setting.
There's a lot of themes of like making the best of things and building a community within that, like out of the hope of this disastrous world that you're in, which I really appreciated.
Yep.
I think there's like been a lot of like sort of grim, dark games and post-apocalyptic games coming out right now. I don't know why on earth people would feel like they need to write those kinds of things. I don't know where they're drawing from on any of that. But I did appreciate that it does have a little bit more of a hopeful view of things, and especially about community and the things that you can kind of do together.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bleak out there. So something. I think that was always a thing. Yeah, I think but we wanted it to be. Hope and just conceptualizing different ways that communities can live, outside of the corporate controlled world of in the fantasy of the game.
We touched a little bit on the kind of apocalyptic setting, but can you go a little more into like these kind of like arcologies and these communities and things, and as far as the setting goes?
That crawler, I'm curious about.
So like all the corpos, those sort of giant arcologies, they're sort of giant mega cities. Basically, is kind of the concept. And while there's huge populations in them, most of those sort of populations are intended to be kind of wage slaves, I guess, for the corpos. But obviously it's a more comfortable life inside the arcology. You've got sort of guaranteed resources, access to it, though not particularly luxurious. And then there's obviously a small elite that lives at the top of the arco that sort of, reap all the benefits. The wasters are kind of it's a very broad term to describe lots of different types of peoples, and there will be some sort of like raider bands and stuff, but it's important to note that the vast majority of wasters are just sort of peaceful people trying to, find their way in sort of a world that's been ruined by, like say, sort of it's like a slow apocalypse kind of thing, right? Like it's not everything ended overnight. It's, things just gradually ground until you find yourself in this sort of situation. And the idea of the Union is just more of you've sort of banded together, and this is we'll get to it obviously when we make a crawler as well, but your crawler can look kind of however you want. It doesn't have to be that sort of Jawa Sand crawler kind of vibe, but the idea is that you have made some kind of mobile base that you can use for mobile stronghold, I guess, to use old D&D parlance, to move around. And then it's sort of assumed that the players have control over the crawler, because otherwise it would be a difficult game to run. But the idea is that everybody on the crawler, your friends and your family all live on it. It's not just an abstract piece of equipment that you have. It's kind of the reason for you to play, the reason that you go out and get the scrap and do the missions is to maintain those characters. You give them names and you establish relationships with them and things like that. So looking to.
Not enough games with base building mechanics.
Seriously, I love, we love world building generally as, as a podcast, we're pro world building. But I do like things where like you get to build up that home base and kind of like make your fortress yours. And I think it creates a lot of attachment to your characters and their environment when you get to like participate in that as a player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's it is a really cool sort of thing to do as a group, and it's one of the sort of 3 steps of character creation. And I think a lot of groups, certainly we've had feedback, a lot of groups have gone really deep into it, like adding a lot that we didn't even like, that's technically not even there, but like they've just expanded on ideas and gone their own way with it, which is great to see as well. So it's I think it's a really engaging part of the game.
Absolutely. So what sort of tools do we need to play Salvage Union?
So it's a pretty simple game. So the D20 is the only dice you need, and then you need the rule book and a pencil and paper or laptop, I guess, to type up your the character details, and that's about it. There's technically an online character creator out there, but I wouldn't say it's necessary to make a character, and at the moment it just does sort of your starting characters, but it's more of a useful add-on than I'd say something that's like mandatory to make your first kind of pilot and mech in the game.
Okay.
Yeah, it is like having only the 1 die was like kind of surprising to me, especially for a mech game, because I feel like so often they're very, very crunchy, and to just be like, you just a D20, that's it, and I was like, oh, okay. That seems
it feels like PBTA like evolved a bit.
It was actually based on the Quest system. If you ever read Quest, the RPG, so we used the SRD from that. It's pretty different from it now, but as an initial framework to build off, because it was just like the simplest rule set sort of out there, really. But you kind of need that when you're going to go, okay, we're going to do mechs, and then you've got all of the complexity of the character creation and the mech creation, having complex rules underneath that then require complex stats and different lines and all of that, then makes it way too weighty and starts to make it. And this is, I think, where like a lot of mech games suffer from that sort of really heavy crunch, because they start with a more traditional framework and then build on top of it, and then it starts just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I think starting really, really pared back.
Yeah, I can appreciate not having
build on top of it more.
Mechanics like get in the way of that design process. Would make things a lot simpler.
No, absolutely. I think, you said it really in the, with mech games, people do expect that crunch. So when players hear, you just need a D20, that, a switch flicks and they go, actually, it might be a lot simpler than I'm expecting. Let's give it a go. And I think that was really important. One of the key design tenets we went for was, simplicity and accessibility. And I think the core D20 mechanic from Quest really helped push that.
Yeah. So again, we've touched on this kind of post-apocalyptic theme, and also having a little hope to it, that it's not just about like, the horrors of surviving, that kind of thing. But what kind of stories and themes do you really want people to explore when they sit down to play this game?
The game's like definitely about sort of exploring the wastelands. Exploration's a huge aspect of it. You're mobile in your home base, and you're going around the wasteland, primarily looking for scrap to keep your community alive. But then when you go out into the waste, you're going to inevitably get involved in the various conflicts in the world. The Kulpos are a very obvious antagonist, and there's multiple Kulpos within the world who all have their own various sets of aims and territories, and so there's conflicts with them, and there's the Wastelanders, who are often being oppressed or taken advantage of by the Kulpos. So that's like a key tension, I think, that's explored. In particular, our module False Flag explores that tension, sort of how far you'd go how far you go and try to help people at the expense of maybe your community. And the Kulpos obviously have a lot of money and resources, so they can try and bribe you and try to use that to influence you. And so that's I think one of the core tensions.
And where would you get inspiration for something like that?
I don't know. It's just fantasy, really.
Yeah.
I don't know where these ideas come from.
It's amazing that you could come up with something like that.
Yeah, no, it's really truly.
It's funny because when we were making it, we were sort of like, from a design perspective, it's like, okay, yeah, from a layout perspective, we're sort of looking at this as, oh yeah, this could be like make the book look like it could be sort of future relic kind of thing, like a lived-in part of the world, and then you sort of like you write it as sort of like, but it's still science fiction, right? And then you get sort of the world going the way it is, and you're like, oh no, we accidentally did make a survival guide.
Yeah.
It becomes more and more real every day.
Well,
yeah. Depressingly.
I was really hoping life would go differently, and then this could stay in the fantasy realm. Unfortunately.
That being said, so we did design it as kind of a kitchen sink game in many respects. So there's a lot of sort of post-apocalyptic touchstones, whether from Fallout, Mad Max, but we've also got like kaijus, so like massive biotitans, we call them, that are these big, scary monsters that you can fight, and they've got a sort of a loose backstory. But the idea there is that the GM who's running it can then sort of adjust the game to like what their tastes are. So if they maybe don't want to go full on like worker rights, I don't know, communism, they can step back a bit from that and maybe do more like kaiju and a bit more like, I don't know, Pacific Rim style thing, or they can go full Mad Max, and there's, because there are like raiders and stuff in the setting, so they can do more of that vibe. So whilst there's very obvious themes in the game, they can adapt it.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I do feel like this hits a really sweet spot of like there's enough kind of going on that you can really play within the world that you've created, but there is a lot of emphasis on that like exploration and sort of like open world kind of feeling too, that if that's where your table wants to go with it and just kind of go out and explore and find things and see what's out there, like that is a very possible thing to do within the game, and something that the game still encourages.
I think, that sort of stems both mine and Panny's sort of tend to favor sort of emergent narrative in the games that we both run and play. So it's really something that we wanted to do with this, and it's something that is kind of written into the book as well in terms of all the lore. There isn't sort of a heavy lore section in the book. Mm-hmm. It's all sort of scattered diegetically throughout all the different bits of equipment and systems and modules and things like that. So you can kind of patchwork together a bit of that world, but you can also sort of stitch it together in a way that sort of suits your game, rather than just being, okay, cool, before I run this, let me read sort of, this 50, 100 pages of lore, and I need to get this all straight because I'm going to refer back to it. And you can kind of just pick it up and run with it a bit more easily.
Which is something I definitely appreciate. Like, allows a lot more. What is the word I'm looking for? It makes onboarding new players a lot easier when you don't have that. Like, not that I don't love deep lore in games. Like, I'm very open about the fact that I love Legend of the Five Rings, and that is a game with too much lore, one might argue. But it does sort of like restrict things, because there are times you're like, oh, I could do this, and it's like, yeah, but that doesn't make any sense in the world here. Like, it doesn't. It ruins so many other things down the road. And I like that this has that balance of like, there's enough there to create a world and kind of put those things in, and have little bits of lore to pull on where you want them, but enough that it really does leave things open for your group to kind of make their own way.
Yeah.
I think, sorry, Penny.
I was just going to say, yeah, absolutely. Like, it comes down to the accessibility again, which was such a key design tenet. And even with the lore, like, being able to just pick it up, read it, get the gist, and start running it was really important to us. Versus, like, as you say, lore can be really cool, but there is it does add a barrier if you do have to read like a lot of lore and digest it and work out how your campaign, your story is going to fit within that.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's what we did with the modules as well, was then so each of the adventure modules that we put together sort of showcase different sides of the different types of gameplay. So obviously we've got False Flag, that's the sort of corpo espionage nanite tech stuff. There we
There
go.
it is.
And then we've got Rainmaker, written by Luke Gearing, which is more of sort of noir mystery kind of vibes. Then We Were Here First by Diogo Nogueira as well, which is that's more just gonzo. Mad Max kind of adventure, but lots of biotech stuff in there and sort of body horror elements and stuff. So
That's very cool. So I know in a lot of like traditional mech games, it's mostly focused on being in the mechs, doing mech combat-y and exploration sort of things.
Stomping on things.
But what?
With your big feet.
Yeah. But like, what do characters generally do in this game? Is there like a balance between mech and non-mech? Like, being like community is a big deal here. Do you spend a lot of time in the community and whatnot?
So you are for a lot of the missions, you are in the mech a lot of the time, for obvious reasons perhaps, but you can get out of your mech, and the game is designed for the pilots to be able to jump out of the mechs and have various abilities as well as equipment that means that they don't like instantly get vaporized when they see an enemy mech. And there's specific areas in some of the modules and adventures, as well as if you're making your own, obviously, where like it's just sort of pilot accessible areas. So maybe one pilot or a couple of them will have to go down a duct and go through an area to open up a door so everyone else can get through, stuff like that. So that's
you can't dungeon crawl in a mech easily.
Exactly.
A really big dungeon.
just we
like
try.
shitty.
Brings a new term to the I think mega dungeon, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
It's used to design mecha dungeons.
Mecha dungeons, yeah. We do have some mecha dungeons, to be fair. But in terms of the community stuff, a lot of that again, that can happen in play if you're interacting with the Wastelanders and stuff like that, and maybe you'll invite them to join your crew. But it also happens during downtime is really the core part of sort of interacting with everyone on the crawler, getting your new mission, but also going to the cantina to get rumors and interacting with some of the NPCs on board, stuff like that. So the downtime is kind of when you can do some of that role playing interaction with the crawler itself, as it were.
Yeah. And I think it's again back to the sort of the design tenets. We didn't want it to be. I mean, it's in the name, right? Salvage Union. So salvaging is a huge part of the game, and salvaging is kind of the core. When we were putting together the lists of all the equipment, systems, modules, all of that stuff, I think was it like 35%? I think we had a hard limit on combat focused stuff. So if you go through all the pilot abilities and all of the other stuff, we sort of capped that about 35% of those would be combat focused. Because combat's it's in it because mech combat's fun. We all like shooting things in mechs, and we knew that people are going to want that. But the focus of the game being salvaging, we wanted to sort of put a much bigger spin on that. And I think it's one of those things when the buttons that players have to press on a character sheet are sort of more focused towards that, and interactive things like some of the abilities like the hauler ability, folk song, for example. When you have things like that, it's like, okay, well, how do I make use of it? And it kind of pushes you into those more interactive situations rather than just okay, cool. If you have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail kind of situation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to talk about what is unique about this game, in particular compared to like other mech games. I mean, do you feel like there was like kind of a hole that you wanted to fill with a game like this, or did you just sort of have a sense that you're like, I want to create a mech game, or like there are a lot of mech games out there, and I'm just curious, like what sort of started this for you and made you say like this needs to be out in the world?
I mean that kind of, to be honest, the very first time this started was because Games Workshop released Adeptus Titanicus, and it was originally going to be a miniatures game because I didn't want to pay to buy Adeptus Titanicus because it was really expensive.
And you were like, what would be cheaper is if I made my own game.
Yeah, it's make your own
Got
game,
it,
right? Yeah,
got
no,
it.
that's really sensible.
Yeah. I mean, that is the gamer mindset, isn't it? It's like, okay, but what if instead of doing the thing that's already made, I put in thousands of hours and made something else?
Exactly. Yeah. Completely sensible.
I won't have any time to play it, but I will get to make an entirely new thing.
And then,
we've all been there.
Yeah,
though.
so that was that's kind of like where it started, at least conceptually. But then it sort of came on because then obviously I met Panny working because we both used to work together at Modiphius, and then sort of getting back into RPGs and things. And I was like, oh, this could work for that. I mean, that's the thing, because I love mech stuff generally, but having tried a lot of these other mech games, they're very difficult to bring to the table because I struggle with crunchier systems. So what actually gave me the idea to adapt it was a friend of mine, Mal Illich, wrote a mech game. It's never published, but it's called Bane. And we did a play test of that. And it was really, really fun because he'd not really written any of the rules. He just kind of had this concept. So it was just kind of, it was a bit of an FKR kind of situation. So we were just kind of making it up as we went along. And it was just really fun because it was just like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. I'm going to go up on that hill and shoot. It's like, oh, yeah, cool. Just, I guess, roll a dice. It's like, yeah, no, cool. You blow it up. And that was just like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this was really, really fun. And hey, actually, what if we adapt this and turn it into what became Salvage Union, because it was like, actually, that's really, really fun when you can just have a mech and go, okay, cool, let's just do it. It's really simple. It's like, okay, cool, that happens. Okay, you do that now.
Yeah.
And, it's not, oh, okay, cool, wait, hang on, let me just reference this, let me reference that. And, oh, hang on, what's the numbers here? So let me just do this little bit of math. And, when you take that all out and it's just, things are just happening. And that sort of narrative focus mech game was just really fun and just not an experience that I felt was out there.
Yeah, it definitely changes the pacing a lot when you're not like, okay, and then I have this add-on to my mech that does this and multiplies this by 3, and then if I go over here, but I can only run this one for so long before things overheat, and which like I think is what I don't like about it, because I get bogged down and like a little overwhelmed by it. It is nice to be able to just do it a little more snappily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think the tricky balance there in terms of, and I think what makes Salvage Union particularly unique is that we still wanted some of those customization and kind of mech elements that make the mech genre kind of what it is. So like, we kind of wanted to make people feel that they were, playing a more complicated game like Battletech, but not having to do all of the math.
We still have some of that doubling and stuff in there, but
so there are, as you say, there's like elements like heat, there's building your mech out systems and modules and bolting them all together. And I think it strikes an interesting balance because there's the sort of crunchier mech games like Battletech or Lancer that go really heavy. But there are some, there are some like really light ones like a Mecha Hack, for example, which is really good, but it's like ultra light. And there's Beam Saber as well, really good, built off like kind of Blades in the Dark, Scum and Villainy kind of chassis. Again, really good, but quite different to what we were going for. And I think so as is simple, but there are those customization elements which I think is what places it in a sort of interesting position in terms of at least the mechanics.
Was that Hope Core like there from the beginning, or when you were pulling from Quest? Because I know Quest is very Hope Core fantasy as a book. Did that influence having this hopeful element to Salvage Union, or was that something that you went into like, we want a more hopeful post-apocalyptic mech game from the beginning?
I feel like that was more of Panny's influence, actually, because what I'd sort of put together initially was actually just a very loose framework. There wasn't a lot to it. So when me and Panny sort of teamed up on it, that went over your way, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so. You had the Salvage Union sort of idea because that came from Bane, I think, the big Union crawlers, but they were sort of an aspect of Bane, but I don't think they were like the core focus. But then we drew and took that because it seemed like a really interesting idea as part of that game, and then thinking about like the Salvage Union as a concept. The themes of hope kind of arose from being a big crawler and living communally. But then Quest absolutely was influential to that. We were looking at different systems that might work with Salvage Union because it was, and I think Alad had taken the Quest core mechanic because it was just quite a simple core mechanic. But then I started like really going into the rest of the system, and it has a sort of very hopeful, kind of whimsical vibe to it, and I think that was quite influential. Combined with then we sort of the ability system as well became really important to mechanical design of a game. It would be definitely Quest. I think that vibe of Quest definitely got into Salvage Union.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that like in order to build a game that's kind of like built around like salvage and things, like there does have to be at least some level of hope there. Like we're keeping going for a reason. Like the reason you're going to go out and find things and continue to build up this community is obviously because there has to be some hope there, or you wouldn't put in that kind of effort, right? Like some of that is just sort of ingrained into what you're trying to do.
Well, you're rebuilding.
Absolutely.
You're sort of taking what's been abandoned and ruined and making use of it and turning it into
otherwise you just give up.
So exactly.
Yep.
And that's not a very fun game. Let's play Give Up, the RPG.
Give Up, the RPG.
So there is only ever session 0.
Right. I don't know. Do you make it past scheduling or?
Now you're just describing far too many RPG
I think technically
campaigns.
we've all played. We need to trademark that, Ryan. We could make some serious money.
I think every game is that. Every game should have a blurb that says the number one enemy is scheduling.
My son has like
Just
found
go
a game
from
that he really likes and has been wanting to run it for friends. And it's been like a year now. And he's like, I just can't find a time. And I was like, welcome. You are a real GM now. Like you may never have run a game, but it's true.
It's hard, yeah. Open tables are good. I find if you have a pool of about 30 players, you can get 5 consistently. Right. That's how I do it.
So you just like have to have enough friends that eventually some group of 4 or 5 people will be able to get together at some point.
Yep. Well, this is the part that we'd like to inform our audience of the history of the game. So I scour Wikipedia and Kickstarter and find all the fun little details and just put a factual information out here. So Salvage Union kickstarted successfully on January 5th in 2022. So only a few years ago. Went into retail in December of 2023. And it's got those supplements that were mentioned earlier as well, which is fantastic. When did you start the development for the game? When was that first started?
So if you're talking, when we first sort of like, when that initial sort of thought stuff started, that was probably like, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. But when it really started was probably about 2020, when I started like trying to put it together a little bit, and then late 2021, I think. Late 2021, sort of August. That's when me and Panny decided to work together on it, and that's when it really started taking shape. And we put the quick start together and all of that, just prior to the Kickstarter release, wasn't it?
Yeah. That part came together quite quickly. But I think there was a lot of groundwork there, obviously. But I think it was only a month or two. Like we managed to put a quick start together, which was like 100 pages. So it's a fair bit of a quick start. But again, like there was a lot kind of already there, so we just sort of pieced it all together, didn't we? And got it out there.
Yeah, no, so
yeah. And then last year it was nominated for best game, best rules, and then was it layout or no product of the year?
No.
Why did we not nominate it for layout?
I know, I was really bummed about that.
Yeah, we were really proud of that. Like, and it came as a surprise, as the initial success of a Kickstarter did as well. To be honest, because you never really think we would.
You're like, I like it now. I just have to hope everyone does.
Yeah, quite. Yeah.
That idea of like putting things out into the world is so terrifying. I don't.
It really
That's
is.
so scary.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we'd done sort of a few small things, but this was by far, like, when it blew up, I think it way exceeded our expectations for it. I think we were hoping to do, like, I don't know, 20, 30 grand or something on it, right?
Yeah, like a
if
small
it
print
went
run.
well. And yeah, but then that's also why the scope of it then just got completely out of hand, and it ended up being such a big book. It was meant to be like a 100-page A5 book, like that was the initial kind of pitch, you know. And then
it was meant to be like yeah. Sorry,
I'm okay with that. I'm okay that it's, you know.
Yeah, but like full color, 300 plus pages.
Mm-hmm.
Gorgeously laid out.
Beautiful art.
It's easy to follow.
Yeah,
lots of good stuff went into this. You can tell.
Yeah, we made a lot of promises on the Kickstarter, and I think it's important for us to deliver on those, because, you know, I think we cut a couple of things, but it's only because, like, through development we were like, okay, actually it's better without it. But it was only one or two things really. I think we were down a couple of pilot classes because we just felt like we were making them up for the sake of it, right?
Yeah, there's a
rather
few
because
things
they
like
worked
that.
well. Yeah.
We got rid of there was like a stress system early on, which we got rid of. Because it added an extra layer of complication, but didn't really need to be.
Added a lot of stress, really. But...
added a lot of stress. Yeah.
So it was doing its job. It's just
just in the wrong way. It was supposed to be in-game stress rather than out-of-game stress.
This is
It's a little too
supposed
much
to be
bleed.
fun stress, not real stress.
Yep, exactly.
Just really brings it fully into the immersive experience, right?
Yeah.
Before we fully jump into our character creation, do you feel like there are any terms or concepts that people need to know ahead of time? Otherwise, we can certainly explain things as we go, but sometimes there are, you know.
So there are 2 pages in the core book which explain kind of the because we don't have sort of like traditional stats, I guess it's probably they're probably good ones to explain. So page 20 has the pilot stats on it. So HP is pretty self-explanatory, hit points. Abilities are the abilities that your pilots have. So they're basically special abilities that you can usually activate with ability points, which is AP, and then you have inventory slots. So pilots are pretty self-explanatory, really. Mechs are a bit more complicated, as you might expect. So there's tech level. So tech level is basically our game's leveling system, effectively. So it runs from 1 to 6, and at the start you have access to tech level 1 or T1, and all scrap is kind of stratified into tech level, as are all the systems and modules, which we'll get to, and so are all the mech chassis. And you access new tech levels by upgrading your crawler. So as your Union crawler goes up in tech level, so you get access to all the other techs. We also have then mech chassis. So the chassis is the kind of the frame for your mech. It's the sort of base that you build on, and you attach systems and modules to that. Systems tend to be sort of external add-ons, so like guns or arms or legs, because you have to add your legs, and then modules are kind of internal or electronic systems and things like that. And you have then on a chassis, we'll have a stat for module slots and system slots, which dictates how many of those you can add. And then there's also energy points. Energy points is basically the amount of energy output of your reactor. So you use those energy points to activate certain systems and modules in the same way as you would use ability points to activate your pilot's abilities. So they're kind of similar. Structure points are mech health points, basically. And then you've got cargo slots, which is the same. Heat capacity is some systems and modules will generate heat, and your chassis will have a heat cap, so you can generate that much heat. And then you have salvage value, which is effectively the amount of scrap that any system, module, or chassis will break down into, and how much it costs to build as well. So when you're building a mech, you start with 20 Tech 1 scrap. And so you can spend that on buying these items effectively, or, well, building them is kind of the idea. And so, yeah, that's on page 96 and 97 of the core book, if you have a look there. But yeah, that sort of explains all that anatomy of a mech.
That's really cool. It does sound like a lot of moving parts all at once, but it's like all kind of pared down to similar stuff between the pilot and the mech. And
Yeah,
which is really cool.
it's why stress was originally in it, because stress was the analogous system for pilots to heat for mechs.
Mhm. I can see that.
So that's why we had it in, because we wanted to have them be basically kind of the same. So pilots get equipment and abilities in the same way as like abilities are kind of like the modules for pilots and equipment's kind of like systems for pilots. And we wanted to keep that kind of mirroring. But yeah, like I say, didn't really work. So we just took it out. But yeah, other than that, they are pretty analogous. Yeah.
Very cool. All
I'm
right.
excited about
Well,
this.
are we ready enough to make some people and some mechs?
I'm ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
I'm ready
let's do
too.
it.
All right. Let's make some people.
Let's make some people.
So, what do we have to do first for character creation?
Great question. Dun dun dun. So you can fill out your stats, which aren't rolled. You just get a certain amount. So we'll start with pilots. I think that's always the easiest to start with. And it will sort of frame what kind of mech you want to design.
As a note, if you turn to page 18 in the rule book, there is a very handy little flow chart there, which will talk you through it. As it were.
Yeah, I do like how it's laid out as kind of like a flowchart diagram thing that's kind of going all around like in a path. And then shows you kind of where to jump to once you're done with the pilot stuff to your mech stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah, that was I don't want to say stolen wholesale. It was inspired heavily by I don't know if you've seen Talk by Will Jobst. Or Jobst. I'm not sure how you pronounce that actually.
I think it's Jobst, but don't quote me on that.
Is it Jobst? Okay, yeah, but I really like Will's stuff, and I got a copy of Talk, which I have read but never played, as is the case for so many games that I have. Yeah, I think Will's layout is fantastic, and so obviously in Talk, because it's like this racing game, there's I think there's a similar thing, sort of flowcharty thing for I thought that's really cool, and it just felt, because obviously Talk is laid out in that sort of car manual kind of vibe. It was very much something I looked at when I was doing the layout on this.
Very cool.
But yeah. So basically, you start off with 10 hit points, 5 ability points, and you have your 6 inventory slots, which are kind of already on your sheet, but you can note down that you've got 6. And that's the same for all pilots. And at the start. You can increase those later on as you level up your crawler. Those numbers will go up, and there's some pilot abilities which can improve things like your hit points, or I think some of them can give you back AP and stuff like that.
There's one thing on the character sheet actually, which is not listed in that box in the flowchart, which is TP. TP is training points, and we'll get to that later with the crawler. Every downtime you earn training points, which is what allows you to buy new abilities, basically. So it's kind of like an XP, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically it. You put 10 and 5 in the box, and then you pick the next step is picking your pilot class, which is somewhat more interesting.
Yeah.
So there's 6 pilot classes in the game. There's the engineer, who, as the name implies, has a lot of abilities about repairing mechs and understanding things about mechanical things, and they can also sort of build up rapport with like other engineers within the wasteland. And they're great if you want to play kind of a very much a support class, but a very important one, given that your mechs will take a bit of a pasting in the wasteland, and having an engineer on hand is very useful. The hacker, as the name also implies, it's a very, very to the point class names, does hacking stuff, so they can disable systems on a mech. They can get information about tech, and they can also bionically enhance themselves. Yeah. There's the hauler, which is your kind of trucker class, which more games should have, I think. And that class is really good at hauling and salvaging. So they have abilities to sort of get more inventory slots, to salvage better in the wastelands. But they're also kind of a sort of face of the group in many respects. So they've got some abilities to kind of inspire allies, as well as learn more in social interactions, like reading a person, for example, to find out, are they giving us a good deal or not.
They're kind of a trader class as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that combination of things together. I feel like that's not something that you see very often, but like, I love having them as the face of things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then there's the scout, which is the scout class. So it has abilities to sort of get intelligence about the areas within the wasteland, sort of get intel, scout ahead. They're also sort of a trickstery class in that they can do a bit of deception, a bit of intrigue, in case maybe they get caught when they're sneaking around, and they have some sort of sniping abilities as well. And finally, there's the Salvager, which is kind of a unique class. I mean, it's a jack of all trades. So it has all the core abilities, and you basically just pick from any of the class abilities in the game. But it doesn't get to advanced. So later on in the game, you get like advanced and legendary abilities, and it doesn't ever get access to them or any of the what's called hybrid classes, which again are sort of like multi-classes that come on later in the game. So it's kind of jack of all trades, master of none is very much the idea with that. But it's good if you just want to have a broader, if you want to do some hacking and some repairing and some hauling and whatnot, and some salvaging, of course.
And there's one that we missed, which is the soldier as well, which is a straight up combat class. Good at doing all the fighting bits, basically. If you look at page 22, actually in the core book as well, there is something that I am quite proud of, which is the diagram and how all the different classes intersect. So obviously all the classes have their ability trees. So on each class page as well, you've got these red ability trees. And so those 3 trees go to these basic classes. And later on in the game, you can then diversify into advanced classes. So each one, and then on the class page, it's got a little sort of bit that isolates which trees apply to that class, basically. And as you can see, the Salvager gets all of them, but none of the advanced again. So, as an engineer, for example, you could then sort of hybrid class later on in the game into either the Fabricator or the Union Rep, and then that unlocks sort of some of the skill trees to the left or the right of that of that class. So the engineer could potentially get some of the hauler abilities or some of the hacker abilities, depending on whether you go Fabricator or Union Rep.
You just tickled my min-max brain a bit. A little bit there. This is amazing.
Yep.
Like
I love that it's all like very self-contained too. So like you look at the engineer page and right there it has like these are the hybrid classes, these are the advanced abilities, these are what page they're on. So it's all right in front of you as you're making your character. You're not skimming through and being like, okay, well, what is this going to look like later on, and trying to put that together. It's all like right there in front of you, which is
page referencing all of that was a nightmare. So thank you, Panny.
I
for doing that work.
I think about it and like that would be so much work, but as a player, I appreciate that like in text info so much. Like it's so incredibly
100%.
usul.
Can I say it? It's good, honest work.
Yeah.
Someone's got to do it.
That's the kind of work that you really do need to request to be paid by the hour, though.
When you work in RPGs, it's best not to look at how much money you earn per hour.
Never factor in your own labor. Horror.
Basically those 5 sort of basic class archetypes are sort of this what we sort of distilled it down into effectively, that they sort of cover most of those bases.
And then the Salvager is just kind of jack of all trades there, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool. The audience can't see what we're seeing unless they have the book, but like honestly, this in and of itself is like worth the price of admission because like it's just symmetrical and beautiful, and I don't know.
Tickles my brain.
I'm having an existential like experience here with this character creation
This
chart.
is why I'm honestly mad to find out that we didn't nominate it for layout. I'm like really angry about this. And I'm the one that was involved in those decisions, and it was incredibly rude.
I know.
Should we register a complaint? Yeah, I mean,
I think it's one of those things. It's I think it is quite elegant when you actually get it. I think sometimes it's one of the questions we answered quite a lot, I think, in the early days, because people were sort of asking, wait, hang on, how does this stitch together? Particularly with the hybrid classes, I think, because the hybrid classes, because once you have the hybrid class, then you can only access to train from new now. Those new trees, you don't have access to the old ones, but you do keep the old abilities that you already have trained. So then there's a bit of a thing in terms of unlearning those abilities and then learning new ones if you want to fill in those slots that you have on your sheet.
Right.
Yeah,
and you don't have to go to a hybrid class. You could go all in on your base class and then just go down the middle there.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the fact that each class links together with another is brilliant.
Yeah, trying to figure out which ones should be with which one was that was we did a good few days dev on that, didn't we?
We did, yeah. No, I think it makes sense, but yeah, but it was important again for that. As I was saying earlier, that we did want the game to have that element of customization, and like as you were saying, Ryan, like the your min-max brain is tingling, and we wanted a bit of that. We want people to look at it and go, oh yeah, that's interesting. I can do this or that, but it not to be so overwhelming. But,
yeah. It's a very difficult balance to hit, and it is a thing that I think that you've done a great job on, is the feeling like there's a plethora of choice, but not being bogged down by somebody being like, and you can do anything. And you're like, well, okay, I need a little help.
Arguably to begin with, the Salvager is actually the hardest one to pick to begin with, because you have access to so many initial abilities. Like out of all the other classes, so the Hauler, Scout, Engineers, Hacker, Soldier, you pick your class, and then you actually only have 3 options of an ability to pick, because you have to pick the number 1 ability in the class, in one of the 3 class trees. Yeah. So this next bit is basically pick one of those and then pick one ability. Is the thing. So it doesn't cause too much kind of analysis paralysis at the table. But when you go home with a book and then you're like, okay, where do I want to take this later? In that downtime between sessions, you've got something to kind of get your teeth into, because that's something I've certainly felt before when playing campaigns, and a lot of people I know do too, is, you get excited, right, about a campaign that you're playing. You're like, oh, okay, cool. Where can I take this? What can I do? And you kind of want to have a look through and figure that out and do some of that character building, right? Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, the Salvage definitely has the most options there, but I suppose it's still only 15 when I think about it, but it's, of the
that's fair.
first things.
Yeah,
like,
it's 15.
Yeah. Which compared to, I don't know, like, there's probably more than 15 D&D feats.
Oh,
when I think about it. Again, relatively speaking, even the more complicated stuff, I think, is pretty gruckable, as it were.
Right. Exactly. Well, I have thoughts on who I would like to, or which class I would like to go to. But so the one that stood out the most to me, I think, right away was probably the Engineer.
Okay.
Sort of support class, and like tinkering with the mechs and all that sort of fun stuff. But like honestly, all of them sounded pretty amazing. For like I would probably go with the Scout if this were a video game.
Scout's always my sort of like, I'd sort of like Scout or Hacker normally out of those sort of archetypes. For sure, because like it's just like the sniping thing, or the it's operating at a distance kind of thing, right?
There's that some sort of safety, like that's usually how I play games where you embody something like that, is you have that safety of distance. Or
that sort of glass cannon approach, right? For me, but I'm
kind of feeling like Hauler is where I want to go.
I figured that was going to be kind of
You're
up
like,
your
a
alley.
face character? Amelia? Would
a face
never.
character for Amelia?
What? I know. It's really out there today.
There's a really fun thing with the hauler at high levels as well, where they actually just get really you can make really brutal combat builds with a hauler in terms of ramming. So there's there's one of the advanced abilities, can't stop, won't stop. So you deal damage based on the amount of cargo you're carrying.
Oh yeah.
And then you can kind of just stack it up, and then that can actually get really deadly.
Oh yeah.
That sounds real cool.
Yeah. No, Hauler's a lot of fun.
Right, that's what I'm gonna go with.
I think the hacker's calling to me today.
Okay.
Yeah. Always fun.
Would I go? I'm going to go Salvager. Love it.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, because I think
it'd be nice to kind of show off the process for the Salvager too, since it seems to be one of the more complex starter classes.
So the Salvager one it's a little bit harder because you have to flick through the book a bit more if you're not obviously already au fait with everything that's in there. It's on page 45 if you have a look. Obviously there's just a huge list, so yeah, you've got 15 starting ones. So it's basically you can pick from any of those trees that apply to any of the other classes. Like from a starting perspective, it's no different from just picking that class and picking that one thing. It's just then later on down the line, you can obviously on your second skill, you could have a hacker first skill, you could have a hauler first skill, and then you sort of build out those trees then to like you say, build that sort of it's kind of classless character really, but yeah, obviously, if you were playing then and, you start hitting those legendary abilities, you're not going to get them. You do get 2 extra abilities overall. So everybody else maxes out at 10, 6 core, 3 advanced, 1 legendary. The Salvager just gets 12 core as a whole. So that's where your sort of, advantage comes back in. And I think, okay. Definitely.
So we got our classes. Now we have to choose one ability for us at the very least, right?
Yeah, so you pick one of the top line abilities, and so you can you sort of get them in a line. So if you want the second and third, you have to get the preceding ones in the tree.
Skill trees make my heart so happy. It just feels like it's so clean. It's like, here's what you do, and here's how you do it, and I love it.
Yeah. So if you also notice on the skill trees, there's generally, they're kind of like sort of separated. There's normally one that's kind of more of an interactive roleplay element kind of one. So there's one skill tree that allows you to do that sort of thing. There's one that's kind of, and then there's one that's kind of systematically useful in terms of working numbers, and then there's one that's sort of like quite tied to the class and sort of thematic, if that makes sense. Tends to be how they're sort of laid out. Obviously it's not 100% like that, but that was kind of what we're going for, right, Penny?
Yeah,
just to give everyone a little bit of a spread.
In broad terms, kind of effectively combat utility and social was kind of a very loose idea. But yeah, it doesn't always perfectly go down those lines, but and a lot of information gathering stuff. Most of the classes have some sort of information ability, because that's a really core part of sort of how the game functions, because it's a sandboxy game, so players being able to like learn information about their environment is really important. So they all sort of have a way of doing that in a roundabout way. Like the hauler has read a person, which can get you information just obviously from a person. The hacker can get techno, actually lets them get like information about tech and stuff like that. So
I'm deciding like how much I want to branch out from what I would normally do. Should I just be and just
so another thing just to note here as well, in terms of sort of nomenclature, I guess, things to know. So obviously some of them have an AP cost or an action point cost, ability point cost, sorry. So then, you can only use that then a certain amount of times. Some of them have a little equipment symbol on them. That means that it's pilot equipment, so you just get a bonus piece of pilot equipment that will do a thing.
Okay.
And then some of them have they've got symbols on to denote the type of action that is taken. So if it's a P, it means it's just a passive, and it'll just always apply. T is a turn action, so that's like you would use it instead of making an attack or doing something else in a sort of combat or stress situation. L is a long action, so it's sort of performed outside of combat, and it takes like 15 minutes.
Okay.
And then there's also D, I think, on one or two of them. That means it's a downtime action, so it's done in downtime. And there's ranges on some of them as well, where they're sort of combat abilities or what have you.
Yeah.
I love this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go for the hacking kit for my guy. Well, actually tempting just because it's funny. But the hacking kit is very useful.
The hacking kits, yeah.
Yeah. So the hacking kit lets, in brief, lets the hacker use their AP or EP when they're kind of using hacking abilities from a mech, so a bit more versatility. And it also lets you program a hack into it that you can use on foot. That's something your mech has access to. So if your mech can do a hack, like I know Eggs Mayhem, which is one of the hacks that lets you hack into a database and get information about it. And then you can sort of do it on foot as well. So you might be able to, and yeah, if you can access it on foot, then even better. So yeah, it gives them a lot of versatility in terms of hacking and more hacking stuff, basically.
So yeah, with my Salvager, I've gone on the soldier tree actually for Wastelander Rapport, which is basically it's an information gathering skill. So it allows you to basically have an affinity with the people of the waste. So any sort of wasters out there, I can activate it, and you sort of get that sort of default friendly interaction. You can ask them questions about the local area, what they might know, and you can ask 2 questions to the GM, and they will answer to the full extent of their knowledge. So it's kind of forces the GM into providing information to the players so that you can sort of make those decisions, and it feels sort of pretty appropriate for a salvager who has probably been around a bit.
Yeah,
that's cool, because I picked mine based off of gathering information as well, only from the engineering aspect. So I took engineering expertise, which is you are able to answer questions pertaining to mechanical and engineering topics. So I can ask the mediator 2 questions that cover these areas for 1 AP, and it just takes a turn action. And they must answer truthfully. And I can use this ability to ask for the full stats of any mech, chassis, system, module, or pilot equipment that you can see and interact with as one of these questions. So I like going into the game with this engineer just being like, yeah, I know a lot about engineering and this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to build myself to practical, useful knowledge and skills and whatnot. So not only can I know about it and know how to figure out solutions, eventually I'll be able to, jury rig possibly and like repair mechs and cool stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. That's a really useful ability. I think the information gathering is really powerful and sort of secretly sort of the oil that the mech engine of the game, as it were, runs with, I think, because it players can just be like, okay, well, yeah, what's going on here? Let's get some information, and then they can use that information to proceed.
Yeah.
And it just sort of helps because it gives players something to go, okay, well, I'm not really sure, because often in particularly in sci-fi games, there's unless it's something like Star Wars, where there's an implicit understanding amongst the group, sort of, because presumably everybody's seen it and knows how everything works. In a lot of these games, it's like, well, how does that actually work in this scenario? I'm not 100% sure. So it sort of allows your character to feel like they are actually in the know and they have got the answers, and and then the group can make informed decisions based on it as well.
I was going to go with read a person. Now I'm slightly concerned that we're just going to know too much and not know how to do anything. We're going to have a lot of facts and no abilities to do anything with those facts.
But that leads to a lot of interesting story, I would think, right?
Yeah. So I can learn information about an NPC that you're conversing with.
That's cool.
Which then, as you go up, I can later turn into leverage for making deals.
I like that.
Yeah. No. Knowing is half a battle. Yeah.
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 Obviously, we're making mechs on top of this, so your mechs will have a wide variety of different things that they can do. So I feel like, hopefully, I don't think we'll be too backed into a corner.
It's always useful to have some of those things on your pilot as well, because and again, it's that thing, as you level up from session to session, you can sort of diversify out into more, technical rules-based skilled rather than more narrative skills, abilities. So, you can kind of diversify a bit further down the line. But yeah, a lot of, again, the mech stuff will have some of that, as you said.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, cool. We're all decided on that. Then next is pilot equipment.
Okay.
Which, because we are starting, we're on Tech 1. So you choose one piece of pilot equipment.
Two.
And sorry?
2.
Oh, 2. Sorry. Yeah. So it's 2, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because 1 wasn't enough.
One is not enough.
1 is not enough. If you go to page 78, it's got the rundown of all the different pieces of equipment from Techs 1 through 6. So they're all listed out with the page references. And then page 80 and 81 has the actual stuff on it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's about, I think it's 8 different Tech 1 pieces of equipment to choose from. But yeah, they're quite broad as well in places. So like the 2 weapons, for example, are kind of, they say what they do, but then it's up to you to really describe what it is and make it your own, as it were.
Yeah.
And there's a repair tool here. The riveting gun is like a repair tool as well. So we wanted to make it, but even if you don't have an engineer in the group, you can still like repair your mechs. You're not entirely sharp in that regard.
Yeah.
So
not completely helpless.
Yeah. Same with like the first aid kit is the main way to kind of heal pilots early on.
That makes sense.
Yeah. The improvised explosive device is also a sort of an anti-mech tool or anti-vehicle tool kind of early on in the game we put in there. So yeah, there's a variety of stuff here.
So the other thing, once you get to these sort of like equipment, and it works the same kind of with the systems and modules, more so with systems than modules, the abilities are quite specific. In terms of how they're used, usually, there's spend, get a thing, and then you kind of play it out. With these, they're a bit broader. So, for example, some of them will have specific defined things that they do. For example, the riveting gun has specific things, but you can also use them in a more broad narrative sense. So, for example, the high tensile wire, you can. It's obviously got a specific description, but I mean, it's 50 feet of rope. How do you want to use it?
Right.
It's kind of the idea. It's it sort of leans on some of that OSR tradition. So for my salvager, I'm going to take the wire because it's always useful. And when it comes to the salvaging system, which we haven't really touched on too much, there are a set of additional abilities that everybody gets because you're salvagers. And it's in the rules section, so it's on page 248 and 249. And these are the salvaging abilities. And everybody can do all of these. This is basically what the salvaging system is built on, is how you spend your AP to get this salvage, or in some circumstances you don't need to spend the AP. But the key thing is, in order to do it, so you'll see a lot of these requires the salvaging trait. Or the rigging trait for repairing stuff and changing, loading stuff onto your mech. And some of these equipments will give you salvaging or riggings because they have those traits. So the wire has the rigging trait, which is really useful for loading stuff into your mech if you're having to do it on foot rather than doing it from inside your mech, and repairing and stuff like that. And salvaging tools gives you the salvaging trait. Which allows you to obviously do that salvaging on foot if you need to for whatever reason. You want to drag something out of a person-sized bunker or whatever, then you're going to need some salvaging tools because obviously, if you're salvaging things for mechs, they're going to be big, heavy things. You can't necessarily just lift it up and carry it out. So, so I'm going to take some salvaging tools and high tensile wire, which makes sense for a salvager character, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to take salvaging tools too, but then also portable comms unit.
Nice.
Very useful to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of going for the portable comms as well, because if I'm out, if I've got my hacking kit and I'm out on foot, trying to hack into some databases or whatnot in some abandoned ruin, and having some portable comms to talk to the rest of the group, I think will be handy. And a first aid kit if I or someone else gets shot.
Someone should have. It's one of those. Someone needs to have that.
Someone should probably have one.
Yeah.
So, I'll take the responsibility.
You never need it until you need it, right? You know.
Yeah.
And it loosely makes sense. The hacker can go into like sort of bio enhancements as one of their trees, so it sort of makes sense of it to have some knowledge of first aid.
That makes sense. For me, I'm going to go with the handheld riveting gun for sure.
All right.
Very
allow me
engineered piece of kit.
Yeah, do repairs in the field, which would be good. And I think I'm going to go improvised melee weapon for fun.
Yeah.
Nice big wrench that this character uses.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's just the biggest wrench you have.
Yeah, there's just a big mech wrench.
Yeah.
It's like a Final Fantasy sized wrench.
Appreciate it. Love that for you.
Excellent. Cool. I think we're done for equipment then. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Go
Quick
back
and
to our
easy.
flowchart. So call signs. This is the first roll. I mean, you can pick, but I always feel it's fun rolling.
Well, what's the fun in that?
Yeah. If there's rolling possible, we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Indeed. And the call sign is effectively your name, but it's a kind of nickname that your character has, which part of the fun as well, how you got it and whatnot.
Yeah. So the originally the rule for this and we did keep it in. I couldn't remember if we did or not, actually. But,
it is there. It's kind of optional there, but it's there.
Yeah. The optional rule is that you don't roll on the table, and just everybody else at the table picks your call sign for you. You do it at the end, and everybody else picks a call sign for you based on your sort of description of your character, and you have to keep it whether you like it or not, because that's how call signs kind of work in real life. It's you get assigned it. It's not something you pick. It's just what people call you.
Yeah, you don't get to pick your nicknames. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to roll on this one, I think.
Yeah, I do like this. It's 5 tables of 20 call signs, and you roll a d20 to figure out which table you get to.
Yeah.
It's because we wanted to keep the game to just d20. We had to lay out the tables in certain ways to be able to get a d100 table out of a d20.
But yeah, no, it was an interesting design constraint, but I think it did. It helped us with certain innovations in places. I think sometimes constraints can be really helpful, just to get you to rethink stuff.
I like it.
Yeah, rather than
It looks nice visually too. Right?
Yes. Let's see what we get here.
Yeah.
So
whatever.
I got Spitfire, and I like it.
Nice. Yeah.
I got Mama Bear. So.
Ooh.
Which has changed my my impression of a character, but I like it.
I got Dingle.
Nice.
I got Ducky.
Is it because of all the dongles that you carry around for hacking? Oh wait, no, that's
Panny.
Yeah, I've got the first aid kit. That sort of does make sense actually. I'm patching people up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got Ducky.
Ducky.
Nice.
Yeah.
Adorable.
Very cute. Yeah.
There are some great ones. I the bunny ears. You just, for our listeners who are not looking at this, Smudge is a great one. How much fun did you have putting this together?
This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, quite a lot of fun. Yeah,
maybe the best bit. I don't know.
Meat pie, big fan. Meat pie.
Meat pie.
When we were putting all this together, we had these. When we were doing the original dev on everything, we were doing it in my kitchen, weren't we? In that flat in London.
Yeah.
And we had this really long table in the thing, and we had wallpaper, like lining paper, so it's just like plain paper, but it comes on like a wallpaper roll. We had that and some highlighters, and we just like rolled off thing after thing, and we were just like writing it in big letters, and then cross out and then rewrite. And we did that for like the whole book. I think we still have them in the storage unit somewhere, but it's like the basic framework of it was like it filled up the entire floor of a room, like on all of these different sheets of paper. Yeah. It was kind of fun, you know.
Yeah,
it was a fun process.
Yeah.
Pickles, teapot, hot dog. It's really. We're just looking at that point. You're just looking around the room. You're like teapot, hot dog. Great. That's late at night.
There's always a bit of that in game design.
Yeah. One of these is coma, which I really. Can really tell you a lot about a person potentially.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that.
Well, I am so glad that we finally got to cover Salvage Union. This game is absolutely remarkable. It's even more remarkable that it is a mech game that Amelia loves, and Amelia is notoriously not for mech games. So this is almost like Amelia enjoying a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles themed game for some reason. So it's very telling that the quality of this game is exceptional, and honestly, I can't wait for everybody to hear the rest of the series. Aled and Panny were fantastic guests coming to us all the way over across the seas, and we are so grateful for their time and energy this series. That it turned out really a remarkable group of people that we made. I can't wait for you to meet the rest of everything that we put together in the next episode and in the discussion fan fiction. It's just really good. But before we get to all of that in future days, and before we let you go for the day, we do have some calls to action. First up, as you may have noticed, things have been pretty busy for the two of us lately, but we are getting close to things settling down where we'll be back on our normal release schedule again, as well as getting things back into play like our Chit Chat episodes and more bonus episodes on our Patreon. Being able to record these calls to action together and other things like that. Even attending conventions, maybe, most likely. I mean, stay tuned for Gamehole Con coming in October, because I think we're going to have a presence there. In the meantime, we've got at least the next 3 series planned out after this one. We are just lining up some recording dates for them. We will announce each of those games and the guests once we do get them recorded. And we will also have, it's very exciting, a feed swap planned with the folks over at the One Shot Podcast. We will be releasing an actual play starring myself and Amelia alongside some fantastic guests from around the network. And Dylan Apalian, host of the One Shot Podcast, is teaming up with Tracy Barnett to record a series for our feed in the style of Character Creation Cast. It's going to be an interesting experiment in cross-network collaboration, and I can't wait to see how it all pans out, so stay tuned for all of that. In addition to that, we would love it if you checked out the C3 Patreon at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. If you are able to help us out, it would allow us to do more for the community and for the show itself. We are currently hovering around $130 a month in pledges, and that just about covers our expenses for any given month. We are incredibly grateful to everyone who contributes there, truly, but I would love to bring on somebody, maybe even one of our listeners, to help us out with updating our website every month. I would love to pay this person for the hour or two that this process takes, but we do need to get a few more patrons to get to that point. If we hit $160 a month, I think we could do that. If we hit $200 a month, I think we could even have them get the backlog of information up on there over time that we've been meaning to do for a while. And as a bonus, if we hit that $200 a month, we can start offering yearly subscriptions at a discount for our patrons. If we get 8 more campaign level patrons, that would get us past that $200 barrier, and that'll be 8 more folks that get some really great stuff, including new stickers for every month you are a patron, a set of 3D6 C3 branded dice that are really great quality from ChessX, a personalized thank you card from the both of us, handcrafted by Amelia herself, as well as many other perks. This is all for $10 a month, and it will go a long way toward helping provide a one-stop shop for any of the games that we cover on the show. We're planning to have links to character sheets and other resources for the games, links to the episodes that we cover the games in, blurbs about the games and the guests, and more. We also have tiers at the $5 and $1 levels that get you various perks as well. So head on over to patreon.com/charactercreationcast to get all of that info. In addition to all of that, we do like to thank our current patrons every episode. Your support truly helps out a great deal. So let's do that right now. Starting with many thanks to DJG, aka Tigranosaurus, Eric Bonds and Daryl Holiday II, Shadim Cabal, The Shyest Barbarian, and Benjamin Sweeney. You all rock. Thank you. Rob Fletcher, Kevin Brown, and Tentacle Duck. Many thanks to all of you. We're so glad to have you here, John Adamus, A3 Sketchpad, and Cole McCallum. Thanks for supporting. Carlos Salazar, Eric S., and Ian Potmeyer, we appreciate your support. Thank you. Liam G., Brian Colm, and Garden GM, we also appreciate your support. Thank you as well. Thank you to Tanglefoot, Blue Kryptonite, and Danny. We couldn't do this without you. Nicole Trainer, Liam Murray, and Kenning, many thanks to you. We appreciate your support, Brian Kurtz, Mark E. Fair, and Drew Owen. Thank you. Thanks to Oz, James McKinley, and Sean Metcalf. We are glad to have you with us. And finally, Robert, we appreciate your support. Thank you. And thank you to all of our future patrons. If you want to join this phenomenal group of individuals, please head on over to patreon.com/charactercreationcast and help us out. We are getting very close to covering our operating expenses every month, and with more assistance, we'll be able to make those website upgrades to make exploring your favorite games that much easier. And finally, if you want to join the discussion with our hosts, some of our guests, and a bunch of fans, head to our Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com. Get in on all the meme action and all the other fun stuff that we talk about there. That's all we have for today's episode. Join us here next week, where we will be finishing character creation for Salvage Union, including making our mobile base. Until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe, drink some water, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for part 1 of this character creation series. We'll be back in part 2, picking up right where we left off.
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.